2 weeks ago, we were in Saudi. We were then at the O2 last week for some YouTuber madness. In between times, I nipped over to Tirana for some Albanian craziness with Florian Marku. This week, we're now back in the serenity of the studio. I don't really know whether I do like it, obviously. It's great to be here with you, of course, but it's a change of pace, isn't it? A change of scene. It's been a great few weeks.
It definitely has. You've stolen all my lines there. No, listen, what we've had really over the last couple of weeks is huge build-up to a massive heavyweight fight, and it was a privilege and a pleasure to cover it for talkSPORT, of course, and be involved in the team and be there around Anthony Joshua and all that fallout. And now, of course, we're building towards an undisputed title, so we've got the dust settling on Alexander Usyk saying things about about Tyson Fury, and Fury playing around with everyone and turning up at the WWE in Cardiff tonight. And so it's a massive time when the heavyweight division's strong, as you know, Andy. The whole of boxing's strong because everything else filters downwards in that sense. It's like a big magic money waterfall down to the bottom of the kind of small hall cards and all those things. But as you say, last week we were at an event at the O2 Arena on almost from the sublime to the ridiculous. Sell-out event for celebrity white-collar YouTube boxers. And it was fascinating to be there as a human being, maybe not as a sports pundit, as anything else. And yeah, I'd like you say, we're in the relative serenity of the studio this week. A fairly quiet week for boxing, apart from, obviously, as you say, Fraser Clark just being interviewed on Sky at the moment after another victory. I think Adam Azim has had 3 knockouts in a row. He won in the first round, didn't he, for the 3rd time in a row. Well, I know we'll break all that down. Spencer Oliver is there for us tonight. I think Adam Catterall is in Paris tonight covering the UFC event there, and we might cross over to him. I know we've got Tom Aspinall, the British heavyweight UFC fighter, coming on. But in general, this is a fascinating time because what happens now, it was unrealistic that 3 days ago they would have sorted out the Tyson Fury fight for $500 million, as he calls it, for Alexander Usyk. No way is he going to get $500 million, maybe 75 million, 150 million that fight's worth in my view. But fascinatingly, as we saw in the week, and I know we'll talk about it later, Zordo Ramirez is challenging Dimitri Bivol, of course, who had a victory recently over Saul Canelo Alvarez. That's gone to the Middle East, to Abu Dhabi, I believe. I think it is.
That's right.
And it's fascinating that the big fights now are no longer going to Vegas. I know I'm going there for Canelo and Triple G, and a lot of other international media will be going, but the sway is towards the Middle East, and I think I'm finding that fascinating at the moment.
It is. We'll get into that in detail a bit later on, the kind of promoter wars and the moves that people are making and the geographical shifts that do seem to be occurring. But the heavyweights have dominated this week as we expected them to. We're all looking at that fight for undisputed between Usyk and Fury. And December the 17th in Saudi Arabia, that's the date and the venue that everybody's been talking about. It's the night before the World Cup final.
I think it's unrealistic.
I do as well. I'm not sure they can get it done in that time span. People have been talking about it for a long time, but it's never really struck me as being all that realistic. But just listening to some of the back and forth between the two of them this week, it's been fun. Fury describing himself as a 7-foot behemoth and describing Usyk as a middleweight. And I love this from Usyk. You know, this is quite Eric Cantona-esque. He said, I think yesterday, all the fanciful comments against me, he probably thinks it will touch me, but it won't. I take it like a crow arguing with a wolf while sitting in a tree. The reality is that if the crow were next to the wolf, it would be silent.
Well, listen, he's always about trawlers and seagulls, isn't he, Alexander Usyk? You can't get a straight quote out of him.
I'm here for that as well, I really am.
No, but, and ditto with Tyson Fury, absolutely contradicting himself about, it's not about the money, it's about the money. And, he did an interview with me on, I think it was June the 19th. We played it out on Fight Night. It was also in the Sunday Tell. It was a Telegraph newspaper. It was a big interview where he said, if anybody has got an obscene amount of money, like $500 million, he didn't say pounds or dollars, and he still hasn't stated pounds or dollars, I will have my morality tested, because if someone's prepared to put that obscene an amount of money on it, I'll do it. And now he's got it into his head that someone should be putting that obscene amount of money onto it. Look, there's no way. I mean, the one thing that Eddie Hearn said this week that is absolutely true is there's no way that Tyson Fury, I hope I'm not wrong about this, and if I am wrong, then God knows how it came together. He's not getting $500 million for fighting Alexander Usyk. You just can't see how that stacks up. It needs 5 million pay-per-view buys. It needs 3.5 of them at $100 a time in America. There isn't that kind of audience for this anymore. This is a trade fight in lots of ways, Usyk against Fury. Yes, they're both big stars. 40 million Ukrainians, if I can say 40 million Ukrainians, will watch Usyk fight. What a victory for his homeland from him. But that fight will happen. I just don't, because of the nature of heavyweight boxing, because of the nature of the amount of money and the due diligence and all those things that are going to go ahead. I hope it's during the World Cup, and I hope it's in a place where football fans can go and see it, and they can make a stadium 50,000 people, where you can really generate a massive atmosphere. For those who don't know, who are listening tonight, the last undisputed heavyweight champion of the world was Lennox Lewis in 1999, and that kind of ended in 2003, I think it was. So it's been 20 years, and this is the problem with boxing in some ways, especially heavyweight boxing. And if we can get an undisputed champion, I don't mind waiting for it to be done properly. I cannot see it being rushed through and it happening on December the 17th. And Alexander Usyk's also said this week, I've got injuries I need to get over. I think that's the crucial thing in all of this, Andy.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly quick turnaround time. Never mind the business side of it, the physical side of it is another thing as well. And as regards the $500 million, I think he's just taken the approach there, Tyson, that if I say it, maybe they'll pay it, because it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Say it into reality.
Yeah, that's it. If I build
believe,
it, they will
as
come.
Anthony Hopkins would say, believe, just believe, say it and you'll believe.
He decided that he needed to get paid more than Mayweather or McGregor. That's where he was heading, north of there. But anyway, we'll come back to that a little bit later on. But let's just have a quick word about somebody who sadly passed away this week. We're talking heavyweights, and an absolute monster of the heavyweight division was Ernie Shavers, and reckoned to be one of the hardest punchers of all time, and everybody tells you that. Sadly, he's left us this week, and he will be really missed, because everybody spoke very, very highly of him, and he gave enormous entertainment in the ring.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and also he passed from that period which some of the other greats didn't. I mean, George Foreman never fought Larry Holmes, but Shavers did, and fought everyone else. He, like you say, he was one of those, I think Ali used to call him the acorn, didn't he? Because of the shape of his head or something. He had a nickname for everyone, Ali, didn't he? But he fought them all. Do you know, and I watched some of his fights. When did he die? Thursday, wasn't it? I watched some of his fights. Wow, those guys really went at it in those days. We would have been screaming our heads off in commentary. We are anyway, generally.
What an era.
I mean, what an era. When you look at, to start at the top, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Holmes coming in a little later, Ken Norton, Ernie Shavers, I don't know. We can add, I think, probably Jerry Cooney to that list as well. The Great White Hope, as he was at the time. I mean, it was an incredible era of amazing fighters, and we can relate it to this era if Dillian Whyte does fight Deontay Wilder, if Deontay Wilder does fight Andy Ruiz, if Deontay Wilder does fight Anthony Joshua, if Tyson Fury does fight Anthony Joshua. That's what we had in that era. They all fought each other. The only ones that didn't were Foreman and Holmes.
Yeah, amazingly. And as we say, he will be sorely missed. So the best wishes of everybody at talkSPORT goes out to
and a knockout
the Shavers
merchant,
family.
But a knockout merchant. I think 40. I know I digress there, but one of the great things about him, he was a great heavyweight boxer in heavyweight style. 44 of his first 47 wins by knockout. You can compare that to the likes of someone like Deontay Wilder. He was that type of fighter, with that kind of power. It's just extraordinary. And, I think he was a gentleman as well. And when you think these guys were 6 foot tall, and 220 pounds, 215 pounds. They were the big cruiserweights, or the bridgerweights of today. But wow, they were a tough bunch of men.
Oh, they were. It was a golden era. There's absolutely no doubt about that.